How y'all doing? It's me, Judge Lynn. Who else? First of all, I want you to see that I have an emergency control cap. I came here with no cap on, and I opened up my photo booth, and I looked at my hair, and I said, there's no way I'm going to keep my hands out of it if you don't go somewhere else. So uh, here I am with my hat on to keep my hands out of my hair. I don't want to have my trichotillomania. What a ridiculous word, but I love it. I have a word of the day. I don't know what my word of the day is going to be. Let's see if we can make some travels and find my word of the day. Before we do, I gotta address a straggler, because you know how I am. I start a whole bunch of conversations and I don't finish them all because I get distracted. This is one of the reasons I get distracted right there. Seats. 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 No control. Decker. Seats. And had to moan about it too first. Oh, now you coming over here for love after all? You acted like that? Go with your sister. Go. Ain't that just like somebody? But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about the fact that I get distracted a lot often by the dog, and got distracted by telling you about my distraction. So let me derail my distraction and come back to what I was going to say. I had a straggler from the last one, which was, I was showing you my blue dress with the pockets in it. And I said during that conversation, if y'all don't be quiet, and I said during that conversation, I had to stop wearing it because I got fat. I did not finish that thought. Let's go see what they're doing. No, let me look first. Act like you got some sense. Stop all that moaning. What you moaning about? There's nothing to moan about. And I'm not playing ball now. Zora. They got the go away part. But anyway, and I said, yeah, I couldn't wear it because I got fat. And I did get fat. But after Eric died, I lost my taste for food. So I lost all of that fat. And so I could wear that dress again. So there you go. That's that straggler. Now, did I talk already about how well the new questions are going? Because they're going well. Underneath here in the description section, I'm going to have a link tree that is clickable. You click on that, then you look at the top and you click on Ask Judge Lynn, and boom, it opens up and it'll send an email straight to me. You guys have a lot of good questions. I'm going to focus on one today, though, that to me is a core need people have if they want to have a relationship working out. Someone wrote me and said she wasn't. If y'all don't stop, said they were having she having communication issues with her man, and she wanted me to know how to get him to listen, and how to make sure their communication is such that it will actively, effectively, and not without effort, assist you in navigating those very treacherous waters of marital communication. Anyway, now here's a quick checklist that I got. Okay, that about that issue. First of all, You have to learn to talk about talking when there's nothing at stake. So, anyway, the best way to avoid an argument is before anything arises that one would argue about. So, if you're serious about being married, we did this in front of a marriage counselor, but you can do it at home too. It's like, look, we tend to fight a lot. So why don't we designate this area of the house as a place where we have conversation, not allowed to raise our voices? We'll hold hands and we'll do this. Now that's extreme, but and corny. But people are so want to be so cool, and I got my soulmate. They're soulmate, and it should work out, and he should know. And as a woman, I know my role, and you know your role, and everybody's out there with the roles and stuff, but they're not talking about how to have a conversation with somebody that they're trying to have a life with, and a conversation that works. So you have to have a conversation about how y'all want to talk to one another. And how it's going to go. Liquor is not a good thing. You can't pour liquor on a conversation. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. Just don't do it. And so when you do that, set up your parameters about, look, I tend to cuss and get loud. I'm going to take that down a notch. Or I'm going to sit down and I'll be comfortable. Or we're going to, there's so many different things you can do, but it has to be specific to y'all. And you should have that conversation about having other conversations right after you have had a good time. Everybody got to be in a good mood. Everybody's got to feel like, yes, this relationship is about to really take off and be good. I mean, after a great meal, and maybe a little of the mad fantastic. That's when you talk about how can we stay here forever? Because when we fight, so let's talk, it just preparation. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So very, very true. And then what you ought to do. Now see, today, I wasn't going to leave it to this. The sponge has holes in it. Thoughts fall through them all the time. So I'm reading what I was thinking about so I could say it. Oh, that also, you guys both on your own, you got to figure out what your emotional parameters are and how you used to communicate at home, because everybody got a household style. You know what I mean? Some households, everybody hugs and loves and kisses and touches. In some households, everybody just hoops and hollers and screams and carries on. Some households, this part is quiet. There's all kinds of different. So you are reading off that script. That's the script that you have. So you got to figure out what has that script taught me. Like, for instance, at home, we were not allowed to tell my father about small problems. We could only tell him about big ones. Because small problems would send him into the stratosphere. Big problems made him put his cape on. In my house, love sounded like a direct missile attack. But a good missile, Baby, if I didn't love you, I'd let you go out looking like that. You need to change it. One day I was sitting in Del Taco with Mom or something, and Mom looked around something. I said, oh my, these guys that's what are they looking at over there? She said, that's because your top is too far down. I don't know how you run around looking like that. Or she would come to my house in Mesa, and she would start cleaning. And then she says, this dirt I'm cleaving, I think it's Cleveland dirt. I think you didn't wipe nothing down, and you moved all the dirt from Cleveland to Arizona. Love sounded like a direct missile strike. But it felt warm and fuzzy and loving, because my mother was the most loving person in the world. She never did nothing for nobody. No, she never did nothing. She never did anything for herself that she hadn't done 20 things for other people. Mothers tend to be like that. But I'm just saying, she could remove herself emotionally from any room and get your act together. So in my house, love sounded like criticism because I'm helping you. That was not what was going on in my husband's house. In my husband's house, where he was born, nobody talked about it. You know, it was a house full of love and stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of criticism going on. It was just everybody. And then he got married and he had another kind of relationship with that wife. She's still alive, so I'm not going to talk about it. So we both came to our marriage with communication styles that were vastly incompatible. And we had to work that stuff out. I mean, I insulted that man for a year and a half before I figured out he didn't take, oh, baby, you did this all wrong as love. That's true. And I didn't have enough sense to figure it out until I talked to my mother. She says, oh, I know what your problem is. And she told me, and she was right. And there you go. And then you got to figure out his. Watch him and his family and his friends and how he talks to people and what he says and what he does and what kind of community he came from and what kind of household he came from, so you can take that into account. And then when you talk about how you want to talk to each other, you can compare. You can say, baby, at my house, love was like, I'm going to get you where you need to be, and I can't get you where to be lying about saying you did something well when you didn't. So this is me loving you. This is me loving you. This is me loving you. My mother used to love my friends like that. I always tell this story. I had my friend went down. I'm sure she doesn't want me to tell this like yet again, but it was just so funny. She went down to college in the South, and she gained that freshman or 20 or whatever it is. And my mother looked at her. First thing she said, "Ooh, you went down south to college and rose up like yeast." That was my mother. And it was all funny. It really was. Well, it wasn't all funny, but it was all taken in the right spirit because Kay knew my mother. But anyway, and then you got to take gender into account. Now, this is a dangerous subject these days. I'm going to talk about it like the old woman I am. Men are weird, women are odd, and to the extent that we have to explain ourselves to one another. I will walk into a subject and just march around in it forever, while my husband would prefer to march to the subject, look at it, and go around. It depends on what it is. But men and women speak differently. And to that extent, you have to learn how to speak man and speak woman. When a woman says, for instance, we never, it doesn't mean we never. If I were to say, we never go out, and he said, 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, we went to Taco Bell. That's him taking me literally when I'm speaking. I am telling him how I feel. So I stopped making global categorical statements like that because it wasn't helpful. And what I would say is, I'm lonely and I miss you. What you gonna do about it? And humor. Ooh, my husband, if you could make him laugh, it was cool. And if you could make me laugh, I'm cool. And there's some things, 30 years worth of. If at any time one of us, we were doing anything, things weren't good or anything, and one of us would turn, the other one would say, really? We'd both fall out laughing. Because we had a friend who did this, who did that, and it got funnier and funnier and funnier over the years. But we were the only two people who understand why really was so funny. Now, one thing you really have to do is check your emotionality, That's what having that special place in your house or a ritual does. Rituals are very important to the human brain because we want certainty. We have these fears, so we always put things in ritual form that makes it easier to do because we know what the ritual is. And if you set up a ritual about having difficult conversations, it will become easier to have because that you get when, oh man, we about to go. We can put it over there. Maybe you have to box breathe. I love box breathing. Whatever you do, put a ritual in. And see, this is more important than getting your hair and nails done. It's more important than wearing designer or anything. It's more important than having a great BMW or whatever, because it's spend your time and money that's gonna make you happy, not make other people look at you and say, "Ooh." I don't know why that was an unnecessary lesson, but I'm just saying I am anticipating a certain amount of pushback in that it sounds like a whole lot of work and trouble to have a conversation with somebody you love. And it shouldn't be that hard. But it is. We're the people that end up arguing. Sometimes I suggest using your outdoor manners indoors. Like you're at the office, you're polite, yes please, thank you, you choose your words. But I don't do that anymore because people are so rude and crazy outside now. I have a couple of kids who have public facing jobs and public, so I'm not going to ask you to do that, no. But do the kindergarten rules, please, thank you, don't interrupt, all that kind of stuff. Divorce. And I'm asking you to do a lot of things, and it's like, boy, shouldn't this be easier? This is the most, especially according to all the social media and everything, and emotionally, this is the most important thing you got is that relationship. If you're married or in a significant relationship, and it's the thing you talk about the most, it's the thing we get upset about the most. Other than if you get sick or money and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, you know, if you want a good relationship, you got to put some time into it. And I know I used to be on divorce court all the time, and I would make suggestions like the ones that I've just made. And those are suggestions that pieces and parts might work for you. There's no exact formula to get it right because I don't know who you are, and I have no idea who you married to or who you with. And you know what I mean? So I can't do all that. I knew who the couples were before me because I had a lot of information on them, and I would make them ask certain questions before I came out there. And sometimes they turn out to be whole different sets of people than I thought were out there. But what often happened is I would tell them something, one of these things to do. Go. Go. Seats. This is screw you and dog. But anyway, and first I would recommend one of these things. She goes, I tried that, or he'll say, I did that. And what it is that they might have tried it one time, and it's not natural, and it's not, and it nothing ever works the first time, and so they say I tried it, and then they go back to what was most emotionally satisfying, which was hooping and hollering and carrying on. And you hoop and holler and carry on for 20 years saying, well, being reasonable doesn't work because I tried that one Tuesday afternoon in 2013. See what I'm saying? These are things that you have to work with, push back, this, that. You got to figure out who the other person is and what they need and all that stuff. And just don't abandon the plan when it don't work the first time. Fiddle with it. You know how? Well, now I can't even use that example because people don't think we went to the moon anymore. They built the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. And they had to have two different people because there were whole different problems. I read this book on the Panama Canal. But anyway, it was very different. They had one guy who did the other one, but the problems were so different that you had to have a special guy. That's just like marriage. It's a canal. But the circumstances are very different. So it takes different skill sets. I'll tell you the canal story later. I thought it was fascinating. Hey! If y'all don't quit fighting out there, I didn't mean I wanted you. I want you to stop fighting. Go. Plots. Zora is much better trained. But what was I talking about? I don't remember. But she got to fiddle with it. I'll come up with the Suez Canal, all that kind of stuff. And then, don't expect to solve things. You know, not everybody, often you think if I got it right out, if I got the right method, if I got the right technique, I can solve this problem. Sometimes all you can do is work the edges of your problems. And my mother was big on that. Little bitty bites around the entire pizza when it looks too big to handle. And you do it bit by bit and part by part. And you will ameliorate the situation. You'll make it better. Now, ameliorate, just to make better. And when we can, sometimes we're so focused on the solve that we forget to work the edges and think we deserve a solve. I mean, we do often for things, but sometimes all you can do is get a problem to a place where it doesn't cause you as much problems as it did before. You ameliorate the situation. You make it better a little bit by bit. And I'm telling you this last story, and I'm going to leave it alone. I was in a grocery store, Finast, Finast, back in Cleveland in 1996 or so. And something had gone wrong, and I know something had gone wrong because I was in the bakery department. You go in to the right, buying chocolate cupcakes in the middle of the day. I never bought chocolate cupcakes in the middle of the day unless I was having a problem. And I was standing in line, and there was a lady behind me with a little girl, holding a little girl by the hand. And she said, "Judge Toller?" And I turned around. I said, "Yeah." And she said, because, this is a time where I was putting folk in jail. I put little Johnny in jail, run into little Johnny's mama in the grocery store. I never knew what was cool. I remember this one time, my husband, we were at a party or something. Hey, meet my wife, this is my wife, hey! And he wasn't talking to her, and he was trying, and I said, and I'm like, brother, I put him in jail last month. Just like, That's what happens when you're a local judge in a small community. But anyway, what was I talking about? Jail? Hang on. I'm buffering. And also, I'm looking up what I just said so I can continue. My apologies. I was in the bakery section of Finast in the middle of the day because something gone wrong. And there was a lady with holding the hands of her daughter, and she said, "Judge Lynn." When someone says Judge Lynn, when you the local judge incarcerating folk, it ain't always a fun feeling. Now when people say Judge Lynn, oh yeah, because I know I ain't put nobody in jail in 30 years. But anyway, and not in Arizona. So anyway. So And she said, "You probably don't remember me," which I didn't. She said, "This one," and she pointed to her daughter, "was in my arms, and we were in on a domestic violence case, and you kept messing with us and messing with him and messing with him and talking to me and making him do stuff." And he says, "And you talked to me about what was important, and how important it was to have the right life for the child, and why you were messing with him so much, and trying to get him right and going in this, that, and the other." And she says, uh, "At the time I thought you were going overboard, but things are 80% better. They're not perfect, but they're 80% better. And I wanted to thank you." Ameliorate. I ain't got the power to solve, but I might be able to help you figure it out. And if I don't know the answer, I ain't gonna pretend I do. I hate that. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how that showed up. Y'all have a good day.